Working on a weeder cultivator. This is the item he was sharpening today.
Bill, let's pick back up with the rakes. It's painting time, and you shared with me a water-based paint.
It's a water-based paint. There are no organic volatile materials that go out into the air caused by lacquer, so we have formulated through our supplier a water-based paint.
So once the rake gets dipped and then it's going down
It goes through a dry-off oven where it's heated to 500 degrees and the paint is baked on. When it comes back off, it's ready to be driven on the handle.
Now let's pick back up with those handles, because you get them from Delaware, but I saw some additional processing here.
When they come down to us from Delaware in a dowel form, depending on what item the handle is used for, it's run through a process called chucking, which is basically like a pencil sharpener. It tapers the end of the handle where the field ferrule will fit onto it to keep the wood from splitting out, and we also bore the hole in the handle to drive the head on.
So that hole, how deep is the hole, Bill?
That hole is about 3.5 inches.
So whether we're talking a hoe or a rake or whatever, is that hole always the same?
That hole's going to be 3.5 inches, and we drive the head up at least 3 inches on every item.
So here we are now. Final process. We have the blue rake that we're seeing, but you said, what was that little clip that goes on the end of the handle?
That's called a field ferrule. It's just basically a metal collar that goes around the end of the handle. When we force the head up into the hole, it won't split the end of the handle out.
And some white glue there.
Glue holds it all together. Depending on what item we're running, we have some that go on with glue and some that go on with nails when we put the heads on.
And then we have to comment on the fellow, because boy, could he tie up a bundle of rakes,
yes,
and very rapidly.
That is a special knot that all of our people use when they tie, and it takes a great deal of practice to be able to do that.
At this end of the plant, where the finished product is, they can turn out a great deal more number per day than back in the plant.
Right. Final assembly, we have basically 2 assembly lines that we can run 2 shifts if need be, and we'll average about 6,000 off of each line.
Harold, final comment from you. We talk about union tools. How much of a distribution are we talking about? Certainly more than just Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, Pennsylvania, West Virginia.
Well, we have distribution all over the country, plus we do exporting also for South America, Europe. So all over, really.
And is it a growing market?
Well, it's not a tremendously growing market, but it's a good steady market. Stays steady almost every year, and we get growth through expansion.
And probably every one of us will buy at least one hand tool sometime this spring. Today we've shared with you how, for example, rakes and hoes are really made. Here at Union Tools, Columbus, Ohio, we've been talking with Plant Superintendent Bill Taylor and Harold Bauer, who is their advertising manager.
Hope you'll stay tuned after the break. I'll visit with John Garwood of the Ohio Department of Natural Resources about pond safety. Central Ohio, we're at the Alum Creek State Park today visiting with John Garwood of the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. And today we want to talk about ice safety on farm ponds. And John, when is ice safe?
Well, Valerie, there's really no clear answer to that. Ice might be safe one day, it might not be safe the next. It depends upon the weather. Unsafe ice will usually have a cloudy appearance. In other words, it's been frozen at one point and then thawed and then refrozen. Clear ice is usually your safer ice. It'll have a dark or greenish blue color to it, and that's your new ice that's got the strongest appearance. At least 2 inches of ice should be present to hold one person. Now you'll probably find this farther out away from shore, because ice closest to shore is going to be the weakest. It's going to have more air in it, and the water might have gone down a little, leaving a little bit of air pockets between the water and the ice itself. 4 inches for ice skating purposes, 4 to 6 people. 6 to 8 is preferably. 4 inches you should use extreme caution. 4 inches is usually the limit to where they consider it to be safe.
John, as we look around the pond, what signs can we see that we could say, yeah, that pond is not safe to be on?
Basically, any snow-covered pond, you want to use extreme caution, because the snow hides a lot of factors that you could look out and tell. Any type of wet appearance to the snow. Ice along the cattails or along the shoreline, once again, is unsafe. Basically, if you see any major cracks, or what we call pressure cracks, use caution around those also.
Now, if I were to walk across the pond and all of a sudden fall in, how can I self-rescue myself?
Basically, you should always carry a pair of car keys or something in your hands that have sharp edges. What I have on today is a pair of ice awls with a nail driven through the end of a dowel rod connected between the line. And you could bring these up and drag them into the ice. First of all, you want to turn around the way you came from, because that ice was safe up to the point you fell through. Turn around and poke these in the ice and kick your feet and roll up onto the ice. At that point, roll away or crawl away. Don't stand up and walk or run. You're going to create more pressure on the ice and you could go through again.
During this time of the year, it's always better to have two people around an icy pond rather than one. Say your buddy falls into the pond. What rescue techniques can I do to save him as well as not danger myself?
Well, two things you want to do right offhand is, number one, talk to the person. Try to get him to self-rescue himself. If he has a pair of ice awls or keys or something, talk to him, try to tell him how to rescue himself. The next thing you want to do is, if there's something around, he's within reaching distance. You want to stay on shore. Reach something out to him, a pair of jumper cables, a limb, or from maybe a nearby overturned farm pond boat or something like that, or a 2x4 or whatever. Reach something out to him, anything. It doesn't matter what it is that you could pull him in with.
But never get on the ice.
But never go out on the ice yourself.
And also, it's very important, I do want you to mention, John, that that person that has fallen into the pond should remain calm.
That's right. You got to talk to them, and it's hard that they're going to have to try to stay calm and think about their situation. Hypothermia will set on real fast in cold water. If the person is also out too far away from shore, you could throw something to them, a line preferably with maybe a seat cushion from a boat that might be out nearby the pond, or a life ring.
And during this time of year, for the purpose of ice safety, remember that two people around a pond is better than one. Our guest has been John Garwood of the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. After the break, I'll visit with Bill Anderson, the director of the Agriculture Technical Institute, commonly known as the ATI. This segment of Agri-Country takes us into Wooster. We're in Wayne County at the Agriculture Technical Institute, visiting with Dr. Bill Anderson, the director of ATI. And Bill, as we take a look at some of the enrollment figures, what are we looking at?
Well, it's looking pretty good right now, actually. We had 730 students this fall quarter. Actually, admissions data for next fall compared to this fall is up about 33% right now. So that's a very positive sign, and it's very good for employers, because we have about 2 to 3 jobs for every student out there, and that's in clear contrast to a lot of universities where you may have dozens of graduates competing for the same job.
What are the most prominent or top industries that people are interested in today?
Well, I think in terms of our programs here, there's a lot of interest in the landscape programs. Our turf program is growing very, very rapidly at this point. It's probably doubled in enrollment over the past half a dozen years. Laboratory science program is growing fairly rapidly right now, and any student that wants to work in a laboratory any place, whether that's a vet clinic or a research lab, there's opportunities out there for them also.
We're going to see some new programs being developed?
Well, I hope so. We just got some preliminary approval from the Ohio Board of Regents in terms of a ground maintenance program. We may be adding a grounds care program, a certificate program in the near future. One other program we're hoping to get through soon is an associative science program, which is a transfer program. If students would like to come here and actually take a couple of years of courses and transfer and have that package transfer very well to another university, that's what we're looking for there. We're hoping to get that approved.
Bill, this is a 2-year program. Would many of the students graduate from here and go on to another college, or are they through at that point?
Well, it's a terminal program. We were set up that way, and most of our students, probably 90% of them, when they receive their degree, go out and they find employment. There's about 10% that do transfer to other universities, including the College of Ag down in Columbus, so they'll go to other states.
The facilities here at ATI, beautiful facilities. How many acres?
Well, we have a central campus that you're on right now that's about 50 acres, but you've only seen a small portion of it. If you take a look at a college farm, we have about a 1,873-acre college farm, which is just fabulous. We have a dairy facility out there that's probably one of the finest in the nation. We have a new aquaculture facility out there. We have a new crops management facility. If people would like to see those, we're actually having an open house coming up February the 20th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And if people want to see those facilities, they're certainly welcome to come out and look at the buildings and look at the farm. They can see everything.
Bill, you've been a director since July of 1992. What are some of the things that you hope to achieve as the director?
Well, I think Improving visibility of the campus is one. Through the open house, I think we can show people what we're all about. I'd like to bring enrollments up. Again, that issue of trying to find graduates for employers is very important to us. They need them employees, or they're not well staffed at this point, and any graduate we can put out, we're going to find a job for them. Our placement rate is 97%. Which is interesting because we're an open access campus. Anybody can come here, and yet despite that fact, we place 97% of all our students that graduate from OSU ATI. So maintaining visibility, getting enrollments up are very important to us.
My guest, Dr. Bill Anderson, the director of ATI.
Today and tomorrow at the Ohio State Fairgrounds, Columbus. The Ohio Agro Expo, February 2nd and 3rd at the Convention Center in Dayton. February 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, the Ohio Fruit and Vegetable Growers Congress will take place at the Toledo Seagate Center. February 5th and 6th, Michigan Pork Congress and Trade Show going at Lansing, Michigan. February 5th and 6th, the Ohio Sheep Symposium, Holiday Inn, Roberts Road in Hilliard, Ohio. And the Ohio Farmers Union annual meeting will go February 11th.